Okay, so here's a question. So does Buddhism have a view on dementia, as in how it is related to meditation? I think when there's dementia, it's very difficult to meditate because the mind is not thinking clearly. The mind can't put things together in a clear, sensible way. I think if you have a parent who's suffering from dementia, then you can maybe teach them some breathing meditation, teach them some chanting, tell them to visualize the Buddha and the light of wisdom and compassion coming from the Buddha into them. That kind of meditation, I think, would work with somebody who has dementia. But the analytical checking meditation that we do about the Lamrim teachings, I don't think that is possible. Yeah, but prove me wrong. Okay. How can we help someone who has the onset of dementia? Should it be prayers, Tonglen practice, or trying to reason with her that attachment and anger are real poisons that lead to mental degradation? I think prayers for the person who's dealing with the onset of dementia, prayers, doing Tonglen practice for them. In terms of trying to reason with them, no, it doesn't work. My dad had dementia, or we're not sure if it was dementia or Alzheimer's. And what I learned is if I tried to tell him no, things weren't like he thought they were, he couldn't take it in. He couldn't listen. Yeah? But if I just somehow joined in the conversation with him about whatever he was talking about, then we had a really nice conversation. Yeah? But if I tried to correct him and say, no, it isn't like that, it just didn't work. Okay? So, yeah. Also, I remember when a friend of mine, her mom had dementia, and she commented that her mom was on one time zone, the present. So, what happened in the past, even 5-10 minutes ago, difficult to remember. Planning for the future, they can't hold it in their mind. So you just have to deal with what they're saying and doing and thinking in that, at that time period. What I did see with my dad, though, is a lot of forgetfulness when I talked to him. If I said, what did you do today? He couldn't always remember. But he could remember so many things from when he was a young boy. Yeah, I once was in the city where he grew up, and I told him what street intersection I was near, and he proceeded to tell me all about the streets that were all around there and how he used to sell newspapers on the corner here, and if you go down that street you find this, and go down this street. He remembered all of that from like 70, 80 years ago. Yeah. So I just decided I was going to enjoy being with my dad. That's all. I wasn't going to try to make him make sense. I wasn't going to try and talk him out of what he was saying because it didn't work. I was just going to love him and enjoy being with him. And that worked. Okay. In Buddhism, there are a lot of teachings on compassion, but when a family chooses, I think when a family member chooses to go on to live as a monastic suddenly, wouldn't that cause suffering to their family? It depends how the family thinks. If the family is thinking about the long-term benefit of their child, they would be delighted that their son or daughter is becoming a monk or a nun. If the family doesn't think about future lives and they just think about this life and what are they going to say to their friends and who's going to take care of them when they're old, then the parents will be unhappy. Okay. What I have learned, though, is that you cannot, if you live your life trying to make other people happy, you never succeed. And your own life also is not happy. Okay? Why? Because when you live your life trying to make other people happy, since the other people are sentient beings with afflictions, they're never going to be satisfied. No matter what you do, they're going to be unhappy about something. So, trying to please everybody in your family is really a very hopeless endeavor. I know for myself, my family was not happy that I wanted to ordain, but I knew that if I ordained, then hopefully I could create some virtue, have a good life, a good future life, progress on the path, and then, because of my karmic connection with my parents this life, in a future life be able to benefit them by sharing the Dharma. And I also knew that if I stayed as a layperson and tried to live the life that my parents wanted me to live, it would be impossible to fulfill all their wishes and expectations. I would create a ton of negative karma, wouldn't have a good rebirth. So that just didn't seem like a very feasible option to me. So yes, we talk about compassion, but we don't deliberately cause other people suffering. Yeah. So if you want to ordain, it's not like, well, I'm going to do it and I hope my mother and father suffer. I mean, come on. That's a ridiculous attitude. So, we don't do things to make people suffer, but we also realize that you can't please everybody. Impossible to please everybody. Yeah? So you have to do what is best in the long term for the most beings. And in the process of doing that, some people will be unhappy. But you're not making them unhappy. Their limited way of seeing things is what makes them unhappy. I don't understand that. Isn't that compassion for common good minus the ones affected? Oh yeah, so we do try and have compassion for everybody, for the common good. And like I said, sometimes other people's ways of thinking don't enable them to enjoy what we're doing. I must say, in the situation with my parents, after a while, many years, they came around. Yeah? And they were okay with what I was doing. Other questions? Comments? Yeah.
Okay. There's something in this question which relates to myself, but I just make it very general. Is the law of karma universal to all people, including non-believers? It has to do with something when you mention about President Trump, but we don't need to mention about President Trump here. Maybe I just mentioned, I think his name is called Joe Low, who has amassed billions of dollars in the 1MBD saga by ill means. So I'm saying that sometimes the outcome of karma for some people, to me I find it is in our samsaric world is unfathomable for me. How is it that some people can have billions in assets but behaved in a unethical or unwholesome manner?
Yeah.
So in order for them to have such riches, this is a question. Does it mean that they did something wonderful in their past life, such that this life they could have such riches? But then how come they turn out to be like that?
Okay. So, yes, the law of karma and its effects applies to everybody. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you believe in it or you don't believe in it. It applies. Okay, so it actually is better for yourself if you believe, because it functions no matter who we are. In terms of, why somebody can have a lot of wealth this lifetime, but also behave abominably. In our previous lives, we've done so many different kinds of actions, and we've had, so many different lifetimes. So in one lifetime, we might have been incredibly generous, and that karma is ripening now in terms of having a lot of riches and wealth. But also, in a previous life, we might have been quite corrupt, and we lied a lot. And one of the results of lying is to have the habit to continue to lie in the future, or to continue. The result of being dishonest in one life is you have the habit in a future life of being dishonest. So, these different karmas could have been created in different lifetimes, but they're ripening together in this one life. So that person, their good karma from being generous is getting exhausted in this lifetime, but meanwhile they're creating a lot of destructive karma that's going to bring them unhappiness in the future. So those kind of people we have to look at with compassion, because they have absolutely no idea about past and future lives, about the law of karma, about their actions having an ethical dimension. So they're just kind of going through life in a very selfish way, and creating the karma that they will experience the result of. So we should have compassion for them. Yeah.
I do not want to contradict you or something, but I just want to add something. In the Theravada canon, in the text, there are also in the commentaries, there are mentioned the 6 factors also to 5. No, it's 4, including the law of intention and the karma law. I also mentioned the physical law and the psychological law.
Yes.
And I would just refer to the one MPD form, which is incredible. The billions of money spreading around. We overvalue money today in the terms as we think it's good for something, but actually it has never been that way maybe. And it's maybe also based to this physical law because of money. Marx said it, that if you have a lot of money, it's going to be attracting a lot of more money, because it's like flowing, the river flowing from a small river to a sea and a bigger river and going to the sea, and maybe it's some kind of this effect also of physical substance, not only a karmic effect.
Okay, so yes, there's many different kinds of laws of causation, biological laws, chemical laws, physical laws, psychological laws, and karmic laws. So there's very different kinds of laws of causation, and in our lives, many of those laws of causation are at play when we experience an event. Okay, so it isn't just karma, or it isn't just biology, or whatever it is, but those things are often interrelated, and they can affect each other. Okay, the second part of your question I didn't quite get, about the big river and the small river.
I mean, by that money thing, it's just a question about me. We always value people that own a lot of money. We value them rich in terms of being rich. In Thai or other Asian languages, you say wealthy not only by having possession, also by wealthy in every other attribution. Kind of cleverness or whatever. And my question was, maybe we overvalue that in some terms today, that we think money is important.
I think we definitely overvalue wealth. Yeah, definitely. When people are just obsessed with it, and we can live quite happily without so much wealth. Yeah. So the having wealth is the result of being generous. What you do with your wealth, how you relate to your wealth, is a totally different ballgame. Some people have wealth and they say, oh, I'm so fortunate, this comes from good karma I created. I want to create more good karma, and I want to actually benefit other people, so I'm going to use my wealth, to create schools or hospitals or support the Sangha or whatever it is. So you use your wealth in a positive way. Other people similarly have wealth because of what they did in a previous life, but now they think, oh, I'm so wealthy, I'm going to keep it for myself, and I'll use it to buy my way into this and buy my way into that, and in the process of doing that, so they create a ton of negative karma. So how you use the wealth is the karma, creates the karma in this life that will bring results in the future. Okay, and people will have different responses to having wealth. In the same way that when we experience suffering, it's a result of our own negative karma, but how we respond to the suffering will create karma that will ripen in the future. So this is where the mind training practice comes in. If we're ordinary beings and we experience suffering, we usually just create more negative karma, because we get angry at suffering. We get angry at our disadvantage. We get angry and upset. Okay? If we practice the thought training practices, then when we experience suffering, we realize there's nothing to get angry at, because we're the ones who created the principal cause for it. But instead we will use the suffering to increase our renunciation of samsara. We will use our suffering to develop our compassion for other living beings who are also suffering. And so in that way, we transform what was a painful situation into something that becomes the path to awakening. Okay? So, everything, the results are coming from the past, but how we respond to them creates the causes for the future. Okay?
I had a question around the way we are doing mind training and trying to use mind training on the path to enlightenment. And a large part of that is also altruism and what we do with the gifts we have. So when we have people like Melinda Gates who have used everything they own to better people's lives and may not be following half of that path, which is the mindfulness part of it, can that still lead, can you just be altruistic but not, focus on the other part of Buddhism that I'm just beginning to find out about, and still be on a path to enlightenment?
Okay, so you're kind of asking, can you create virtue even without being a Buddhist or without having the awareness of future lives? Is that another way to word your question? The answer is yes. Yeah, because we see lots of people doing virtuous actions, and they are not Buddhists. They don't think about future lives, but they have a very kind attitude, and they want to be of benefit, and they create merit. Anything else? This will be the last question. Yeah.
How does our prayers for others work when each and every one of us have to experience our own action?
Oh yeah, very good. So how do our prayers for people work? What we're doing is we're sending positive energy their way. And so that acts as a circumstance to help their own virtue ripen. But if they haven't created virtue, we may do a lot of prayers for them, but they don't have the merit that can ripen. Okay? Okay. So we're at the end of the day. Well, not the end of the day, the end of the teaching day. So, the rest of the day, think about what you've heard. We really covered a lot of material, especially about the 8 worldly concerns. So really think about it and apply it to your life, and look around and, see examples of karma, see examples of people who appreciate their precious human life, who are aware of it, people who aren't aware of it, use what is happening today and tomorrow and in your life to really apply what you've learned. Okay? And in that way, it really will begin to make sense to you. And so similarly, when you go home tonight, do some meditation, contemplating the 8 worldly concerns, and making some examples of them in your life, and then thinking about, okay, which things do I have a lot of attachment for, or a lot of aversion for? How is that going to affect my present life? How is that going to affect future lives and my ability to attain spiritual results? And what things do I need to work on, and how can I work on those specific traits to release some of the attachment and aversion? Okay, so contemplate that in your meditation. And then tomorrow we'll continue. We'll talk a little bit about death and hopefully the 10 innermost jewels of the Kadampa, and then we'll get some more into karma, and maybe at the end we'll get into the disadvantages of samsara. I should say that precious human life and death and karma are talked about in this volume. Okay, volume 2, The Foundation of Buddhist Practice. And then Samsara, Nirvana, and Buddha Nature talks about the 4th of the 4 attitudes that turn the mind, the disadvantages of samsara. But it doesn't leave you feeling with just the disadvantages of samsara, because it also talks about true paths, true cessation, the goals of our practice, and then our Buddha nature, our ability to become fully awakened beings. So it ends on a note of encouraging us to practice. Okay. So let's sit quietly for a couple of minutes. Think about what really struck you in our discussion today so that you can take it home with you and contemplate it some more. And then let's dedicate the merit.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Buddhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi, may you stay until samsara ends.
Okay, very good. Thank you.